Hello guys, welcome back to my channel. I am Jana. If you're new here, welcome. If you don't know what my channel is all about, I love to share information on my own weight loss journey, my competing in fitness shows, as well as sharing nutrition, workout tips, information, full days of eating, and of course my love for beauty, makeup, and fashion, and sharing a little bit about my life as a mom, as a fitness professional, and of course as a veterinarian office assistant. So I love to consider myself multi-passionate, and I want to share all of that goodness with you guys here on my channel, so I hope you enjoy it. And speaking of makeup, I'm dying for this look. If you guys want me to do a tutorial on it, please let me know in the comments below. I was playing around with makeup this morning. My son is homesick today, poor guy, and he's currently taking a nap, so I thought it was a good idea to be able to hop on here, do a quick video for you guys, and then play with some makeup because I want to do a glam holiday look for you guys. So if you like it and you guys want me to do a tutorial, let me know in the comments below. So with all of that out of the way, I want to talk to you guys about a certain topic. I've had a huge influx of new followers here on YouTube as well as on my IG, and yesterday alone I got over 50 messages. I still am counting them all. So thank you guys so much for taking the time to send me a DM. I am going to be answering the most common question that I saw in my DMs yesterday was, how did I get started? What was my training like? And what did I do in terms of nutrition? So without further ado, let's go ahead and dive right in. All right, so starting with the first question, what did I do to get started? First and foremost, I think it's really important to have your why. Your why is going to be what motivates you, it's going to be what drives you when you don't feel like doing the work, when you feel like giving up. Your why is going to be there to remind you of exactly that. Why are you doing this? And for me, that was my son, that was my family. Of course, it was for myself. But I had yo-yo dieted my whole entire life. I was bullied in school, and I had a poor relationship with food. I had a poor relationship with my body, so I've tried every single diet. And after I had my son, I continued to binge eat. It took like a whole new level of binge eating. I was dealing with so much depression and anxiety and things like that. So after my son was born, my weight really ballooned to the point where I wasn't really able to play with him. And many of you guys know this story of what was actually the catalyst to me just doing this once and for all. And that was, we were playing at the park and he ran from me, and I was too out of shape and overweight to catch him, and he ran out the gates and into the street and was almost hit by a car. So that for me as a mother was like a huge wake-up call, that not only was my health declining, my relationship with my family was declining. I wasn't a very great business person because I was exhausted all the time. So I had all these issues, and this was just like God shaking me awake and being like, all right, girl, like, I know you're a badass and you're not allowing yourself to be a badass. So if you don't change, this is what's gonna happen. Like, your health is not only gonna decline, and it's not only gonna affect you, but it's gonna affect the people around you. So I knew at that moment that I needed to make a change. And so I reached out to my coach, who's Jeremy Reed, and we still work together today. And we kind of made a game plan. At that point, I had tried everything, every diet, keto, well, at that time, Atkins, I've tried Wheat Belly diet, vegan, raw vegan, vegetarian, beach body, Mediterranean, Wheat Belly, HGG diet. I've tried raw food diet. I've tried everything. I've even tried purging. I've tried restricting. That was kind of my MO in high school, is I would just binge and purge, or I would binge and restrict. And because I was bullied so bad in school, I attached my self-worth to how I looked. And I figured that if I got skinny, then I would become accepted and I would have friends and boyfriends and the clouds would part and rainbows would come down and life would just be merry. So I was always focused on looking a certain way instead of feeling a certain way, instead of feeling healthy. So this for me was a huge step, because when I had that wake-up call, I knew that it wasn't about what I looked like anymore. And of course, at that point, I was depressed about how I looked like, but also I was depressed about how I felt. Like, I felt terrible, and I hid myself under clothes, and I wasn't confident, and I just was always hiding myself from the world. So I knew that I needed to make a big change, and I knew that I needed to do it the right way once and for all. And because I didn't know how to do that, I reached out to my coach. And so when we started working together and creating a game plan, one of the most profound things that he said to me that I learned, that I now share with my own clients and I share with all of you guys, is that it's the smallest of steps. Smallest of steps. Often we try to change too much too soon and we become overwhelmed and frustrated, and that makes us want to quit because we feel like we're not making any progress, we feel like we're not going anywhere. And in reality, what we've done is we've just taken on too much and it's not realistic. So you have to take a step back and be like, what can I realistically handle? And for me at that time, it was food. It was focusing on my nutrition and focusing on making that change, and then just getting in the gym and exercising when I could. So, and we even broke it down even further into like even smaller steps. It was like, let's just focus on today. Let's just focus on this next minute, this next hour. Like, we really had to break it down into these like small, manageable, little tiny steps, so that once I overcame that, then I knew that I could take on more. And it was building confidence through overcoming my struggles, through overcoming the things that would normally hold me back. And so really breaking it down to like even the most minuscule, microscopic step that you need to take, the more times that you attempt at overcoming it, you eventually will. You will overcome it. You will reach that goal. But it's keeping on trying even when you feel like you're not getting anywhere, and keeping that consistency. So that's the second part of it is, you know, when you're getting started, it's being consistent. So before, I would always give up because I would never allow anything enough time to manifest any progress at all, because I'm like, oh, it's been 2 weeks, nothing's working, and I would quit, and then I'd go back to binging. So giving yourself time, a realistic time frame of allowing things to happen. Like, I used to think of like, oh yeah, I'm gonna lose 100 pounds in like 3 months. Well, that's not realistic. It's not gonna happen. Especially when you're trying to do it the right way through proper nutrition and exercise. So I had to really like humble myself with learning that this journey takes a long time, and it didn't take all of those years for me. You know, it took me all those years for me to put the weight back on. It wasn't gonna just happen overnight for all of it to come off. So having that realistic time frame and then really breaking it down into small steps and being consistent in doing the work, in challenging myself, in showing up and eating my meals day after day and not giving into the cravings, and practicing not giving into the cravings. And I wasn't always successful in that. I did have binges. I did fall off track many times, but that's why I had a coach to be there who was going to support me. And if you guys follow Jeremy, which I really suggest you do, his story was very similar to mine: food addiction, obesity, depression. And so it really meant something to me to have somebody on my side who was experiencing what I was experiencing, because not everybody in my life knew what I was going through, and I kept my feelings very hidden. So he was like the one person who knew me on a level that nobody else could. So having that outside source that wasn't my family's, that weren't my friends, but I do consider him a very close friend and even family now, who knew all of the things that I was going through and knew my habits and knew my cycles, to be there to just support me and guide me meant the world. So that was also part of me being really successful, was having somebody on my side who could really make suggestions and like what we could change, but somebody who would also call me out on my crap. Like, you know, having somebody to be like, hey, you need to own this, and what can we do to change, and what can we figure out that's going to work for you, and just finding little ways of keeping me on track and finding new things for me to emotionally cope in a positive way. So he would give me suggestions and things like that. So those being the how I got started, was really recognizing that I had a problem, taking responsibility for that problem, and then actually following through with getting help with my problem. So that kind of moves us into the second part of this, which is, what did I do for training? We started with just resistance training, which to me made my heart so happy, because I've always felt like fitness was just a part of me. My dad used to take me to the gym with him when he was training for his bodybuilding shows, and I used to just like watch from the child minding room with like my face just like glued to the glass, because I absolutely love to watch. And I always wanted that to be me, but of course those negative thoughts start running in your head, and I would tell myself that I wasn't worth it, like especially when I got older. I remember there was like a small stint in high school where we used to go to the weight training room, and I was like always excited, and the moment that I would start lifting weights or exercising, the kids would make fun of me, so I quit doing it. And then that was kind of my first experience with being in a gym, and I thought that that's what it would always be like when I stepped into the gym. So I kept from going for a very long time. And I remember the first time that I went to the gym after Jeremy gave me my plan, I made my husband drop me off, and it was in the middle of winter. And I was like, just drop me off. I'm not walking. I'm not going anywhere. So I had to force myself to go in and actually go and do something. And I walked on the treadmill because I was scared to attempt the program, because I thought I was going to get made fun of. It felt like everybody was watching me. I went up to the ladies only area and just walked for 30 minutes. But the key here is I kept going. I was like, if I could just go and walk on the treadmill, I can go again and do it tomorrow. And slowly I built up the confidence to actually start training. And once I started training, I fell in love with it because of what it did for me, just on so many levels. It was a positive outlet for me to kind of dump my emotions. I could just put it all into my training. I felt strong, I felt powerful and empowered, and eventually I stopped working out upstairs in the women only area and started working downstairs in the co-ed. So it took me some time to build up to that, but I was like, you know what? I would sooner have people watch me show up every single day and see that I'm putting in the work. And if there are people here that are negative, that are gonna say something about me working out, then that's on them. Like, I'm not gonna let strangers stop me from reaching my goals. So I kind of just had this moment of being like, all right, let's do this. And I worked out downstairs, and you know what happened? Nothing. Nobody said anything. Nobody cared that I was there. And I just did my workout and went home. And I was like, wow, all of that for nothing. And eventually people would come up to me and be like, wow, you're making such great progress. And all it started with was just getting into the gym. And my actual training program was just a basic beginner's resistance training program. I started working out like 3 times a week, and then it evolved into 4, and then it went to 5. And I would get up before my family was awake, or I would go late at night after my son was in bed. And I just found the time to go. And I'm also going to point that out too, is so many times I hear I don't have the time. I'm going to call bullshit on that. You do have the time to go. You just have to make it a priority. And if you're not willing to make it a priority and find the time and dedicate the time, then you really don't want it that bad. And if you don't want it that bad, then you can't complain about where you are. Don't be the victim. Don't be the victim. You need to be the hero of your own story, and that means that you need to put in the work and the dedication and find the time to make these things work. So you need to find the time to get to the gym, find the time to meal prep, all of that kind of stuff. If you really want to see the changes, you have to be dedicated, and you have to know that it's going to take so much work, so much energy. But staying where you are now takes just as much work and energy because you're depressed and you're exhausted and you're not feeling well and you want these changes. It's only hard in the beginning because it's different. So you just got to stop making the excuses and find the solutions. And that's the number one quote that my clients hear is stop making excuses and find the solution. There literally is a solution to everything. And at the time that I started going to the gym, I was running a full-time photography studio. I was working 7 days a week, and my income was pretty much the only income that was supporting my family. So I would get up early and go, or I would go late at night, and I would always make sure that I had time for my family in there so that I was seeing them. And so I made the sacrifice of like an hour or two of sleep. Either I was getting up early or I was going to bed later so that I had the time, because it meant so much to me that I wanted this healthy lifestyle, because of the way that I was living before was going to kill me. So I was willing to do whatever it took to be here and to be alive and to be present with my family. So if that meant I had to go at 4 or 5 a.m. or if I went at 11 p.m., it didn't matter, because the payoff was going to be so worth it. And so after that, just a little rant for you guys, which kind of segue into the question number 3, which is, what did I do for nutrition? So like ideally the first thing we started with was attacking my nutrition. We wanted to build that good relationship with food and to find what my body was going to respond to. So this is a big piece. Like all of this it's like 100% working out and it's 100% nutrition, but most of the time when starting out with clients and when we started out with me, we focused on nutrition because that is what the big problem area was. And nutrition means so much. Like your body needs proper nutrition, calories, energy. Food does so much for us, and when it's out of balance, we become out of balance. So getting that on point and building that relationship was the biggest impact in my success, but also like the most important. So we started with focusing on finding out what worked for me. So he calculated my macros and we had a starting point and we started there. And if we didn't see results or if things were not going properly and I was staying consistent, then we would adjust them. And we found out pretty quickly that I had insulin resistance, which is very common for people who are obese. And because I was pre-diabetic, it made sense. It was very clear that that's what was going on. And so what insulin resistance is basically your body doesn't process carbohydrates normally the way that someone else with like a regular metabolism would. So your metabolism may be fine, your insulin production is fine, but there's little insulin receptors that are in your liver. And when you eat carbohydrates, your body is basically, when you have a binge eating disorder, you're obese, or you're eating extra calories and a surplus of calories all the time, it's constantly being bombarded with carbohydrates and sugar, and those little receptors become desensitized. So when you are taking in normal levels or lower levels of carbohydrates or sugar or glucose, things like that, it kind of goes, oh, well, we got enough, no thank you, and it will send it off into your bloodstream, to be stored as fat cells. So that's basically what it is. So that meant that what worked for me to lose weight was a low carb diet. So we did high protein, moderate fat, and lower carbs. The exact macros were calculated to me specifically, and no, I'm not suggesting that this is what people do. This is just what worked for me. I have tried many things. Even while working with Jeremy, we tried keto, and we found out real quick that was just, my body did not like it, did not respond to it. It was the worst I've ever felt, like in my entire journey on a different style of eating. I've tried intermittent fasting. I didn't like it, wasn't sustainable for me. And of course, over my past history, I've tried many different things. So for me, counting calories, tracking my macros is what kept me accountable. And I really liked seeing the numbers. I really like being able to track my food, and it's not in an obsessive way, but it keeps me accountable. It's like if I want something that's off plan and it's not my planned day to have a free meal or to go out to eat with my family, then I'll track it in and I will look at it and be like, is this worth it? And I have a goal in mind. So my nutrition changes on what my goals are, whether that's fat loss, maintaining, or muscle building. And to be honest, I'm gonna throw this out there. The honest truth, the secret sauce to weight loss is being in a calorie deficit, and you can do that through nutrition and through exercise. So you can be in a nutritional deficit or you can be in a exercise deficit. So all of those things, with your burning calories, causes you to be in a calorie deficit, and when you are taking in less calories, it also causes you to be in a calorie deficit. So the magic sauce, the secret potion, is just be burning more calories than you are consuming, than you are taking in. So as long as you're taking in a little less calories and moving a little bit more, you are going to be in a calorie deficit. Now, those exact numbers are unique to you, so I do suggest working with somebody who is certified and who is a professional who can help you figure out a baseline. They can help guide you through this. Now, whether you choose to do keto, paleo, Mediterranean, intermittent fasting, all of those things work. And why they work is because they're all different ways to be in a calorie deficit. Some people respond better to different things. It doesn't mean that it's the magic diet. It doesn't mean it's the one that will work for everybody. So just make sure that if you are doing a specific diet or a style of eating, that it's sustainable for you, that you feel good on it, and it's something that you can stick to, because that is super important. Don't force yourself into doing something that doesn't feel good or isn't sustainable, because it will cause you to be frustrated and overwhelmed and make you want to quit and think that nothing is working. All right. So I will say that people's bodies respond to different things. So just because something didn't work for you, it doesn't mean that you failed. It means that it wasn't sustainable or right for you, and you found one thing that didn't work. So keep moving on and trying something that does. And that's really like what it came down to with me, is trying different things and finding out what worked and what didn't. And when I found what did work, I stuck with it and stayed consistent with it. And I know that that's what my body requires. And I found that I have certain food intolerances. I have certain carbohydrates that my body doesn't like. There's certain vegetables and different proteins. And it came from trying different things and trying different foods and just being experimental and finding out what worked for me and what didn't. And that's really important. And not giving up and not beating myself up if something didn't work or wasn't sustainable. So with that, I think I'm gonna leave it right there. I think I gave you guys plenty of information already, and I'm trying not to make this video longer than it needs to be. I'm trying to cut down the watch time of my videos so you guys don't get super bored. So I hope that this video provided some sort of value. I hope that it answered your questions, and I just want to say thank you guys so much for taking the time to send me the questions through my DMs, for taking the time to watch this video and commenting down below, sharing and liking. Please subscribe so that we can stay friends and that you guys can stay updated with my journey, and so that I can keep providing you with awesome content. So please make sure you subscribe, share, and like this video. And if you have any questions, suggestions, or requests, please drop them in the comments below as well. And of course, keep kicking ass, keep being badass, and I will see you guys in the next one.